talking with our first and second year teachers, and they're just gonna reflect on how those first or couple years have gone so far. We have about 4 questions that we'll go over, and then we're gonna open it up to you all if you would like to ask them any questions as well. Again, I'm Katie Doyle. I'm an itinerant in Fairfax County. This is my 8th year. And then I'm gonna let our teachers introduce themselves as well.
Hi, I'm Cody Conti, and this is my first year teaching Fairfax.
Hi, I'm Luke. Luke Wilson. This is my first year teaching APE.
Hi, I'm Dana DeVore. This is my second year teaching APE.
Hi, I'm Hannah Nurse. This is my second year as an adaptive physical education teacher.
All right, so our first question, what are 1 to 2 things that you felt your coursework prepared you for the most during your first year? And as you guys answer this, if you want to share where you went to undergrad or if you went to grad school where you attended that as well, we can start this first question off with Dana.
Yeah, so I got my master's at University of Wisconsin-La Crosse in adapted PE. The first thing I think my coursework taught me was knowing the law for PE and with like goal specific and how to create goals and all that service time information. And then I was able to bring a bunch of lessons and ideas and different things from my master's program and undergrad to implement and use in the adapted PE setting.
And then we'll go to Hannah. What about you?
Yeah, so to start off, I got my bachelor's degree at Slippery Rock University with health and physical education, and I'm currently in an online master's program at West Virginia University for my master's. Some things I felt really comfortable with was just kind of being able to modify on the fly. My program did a lot of hands-on experience where clients would come in and we'd get to work with them. So it inspired a lot of creative thinking. So I feel like that that creative on the fly kind of skills were developed really nicely, and it transitioned over very nice to the field.
Thank you. And what about you, Cody?
Hi, I got my undergrad degree at Ithaca College in health and physical education, and I got my master's degree at SUNY Brockport in adaptive physical education. While I was getting my master's degree, I was also a graduate assistant, and I think with having that graduate assistantship and having not gone to Brockport for my undergrad, I went into it wanting to learn everything and diving kind of into like that hands-on experience. So I feel like a lot of what you can learn in a classroom might not directly translate to when you're actually teaching and actually trying to, like she was just saying, make modifications on the fly and work with students individually. I did a 90-hour field work while I was at Brockport, and I think I just got a really good placement. I don't know that everybody who went through the same program felt the same way about that field work, but that I feel like is where I learned most of what I know.
Thank you for sharing. So now kind of the flip side of that, what are 1 or 2 things that you wish you knew before going into your first year that your coursework or undergrad or grad school may not have prepared you for? With this one, we'll start off with Hannah.
Yeah, so with the program that I went into for my bachelor's degree at Slippery Rock, when you worked with clients, it was like very structured. Not to say it was hand-holdy by any means, but it was very well timed. You transitioned nicely. And everything just kind of flowed because it was kind of teacher directed and the students just kind of assisted. So I think the biggest thing that I was not prepared for was that adapted PE is organized chaos. And I think like we know that, but then when you actually transition out, initially I kind of took it personally because I was like, oh my gosh, they're not participating, they're not paying attention. Like, what am I doing wrong as a teacher? So I think it took me a bit to just understand that sometimes a kid just standing and walking for 5 minutes is an achievement. So being a little bit more patient with yourself as a teacher, but also just kind of taking the little wins as you go. Um, that was probably the thing that I was most taken back by, but it just took a lot of growth to move on from that.
The little wins are the big wins, right? We'll go to Cody next.
I feel like this was the hardest question for me because, kind of back to what I was just saying, like school programs can only prepare you so much and they can only teach you so much in the classroom. So like a few things that like I maybe struggle with the most here are not something that I might have really learned, or maybe they tried to teach me, but it didn't really work. Kind of like time management and like the fact that you're a traveling teacher. So sometimes you have to be in those multiple places at once. And sometimes you have to kind of pick and choose, do I go see this kid? Do I hop on this meeting? Do I go to the school, hop on the meeting, then try and see the kid? Like, how can I make it so it's best for everybody? Is it worth it? Sometimes you get to the school to do the meeting. By the time you're done, you have 5 minutes with the kid. So all of that learning as you go experience, and making sure you learn your students and each individual is something that maybe I just didn't get as much time to do in my like schooling, because you're only seeing kids really like once a week when you're doing different programs and stuff. So, being able to actually teach them and build those relationships and, see them 2, 3 times a week for months on end is when you're really going to make those connections. You don't learn that in the classroom.
I like how that's kind of a positive one though, right? You get to build those relationships. Luke, what about you?
I'd say that the trickiest thing for me this year has been more meeting kids where they're at and finding out what support looks like for them. I have all of us have a wide variety of students, and what support looks like for them can look very different. Some students it may be a little bit more hands off, some it may be a little bit more hands on, and it's more, I suppose, what like during my time for at JMU, um, I learned a lot about being able to adapt the activities themselves, but it's more about being able to have that interaction with your student and really trying to figure out what makes them tick and what will motivate them to do what you want them to do in the classroom. So that's what I'd say I am trying to figure out the most this year.
Thank you for sharing. Our next one, what supports have contributed to your success in your first and second years? Oops, I'm sorry, Dana, I skipped you on the last one, I just realized.
No, you're good. I'm gonna back off of Cody with that time management part, but my hard part with it was in college you have classes and you will work on stuff for that class, you will do everything for that class as much as you can for a short amount of time, and then the class is done. But like you put in every hour, all that. With teaching, I was like, oh, I started with like, oh, it's like a class. Like, I love these kids. I'm going to put all my time into all hours of the day. I had my email on my phone that I was checking over the weekend and everything, and like treating it more of a class than my job, and just learning how to like separate that. Like, I'm at school every day of the week, Monday through Friday, working as hard as I can, doing everything for my kids. But to be the best teacher I can be, I have to have that time at night after school or that time on the weekend to relax and de-stress and to just think of ideas so I can be the best for my kids again on Monday.
I think a lot of the participants might relate to that one as well. That work-life balance is something everybody is working on, I think. Okay, our next one. What supports have contributed to your success in your first year? And for this question, we'll start with Cody.
I think something that really was why I wanted to be part of this program is the mentor program. So in your first year, you get paired with a mentor who kind of like helps you learn the ropes. In Fairfax County and probably anywhere where you're doing anything special ed, there's a lot of paperwork and just different things that you have to learn how I don't even know how to say it, how it all works, how to write the reports correctly, how to make sure you're emailing everybody and putting everything together and consulting correctly, and just like knowing what you're supposed to do when. And I think like without the mentorship program, a lot more of us would be really lost, or kind of like you just threw us in and we're just floating and trying to catch up. But I don't really feel like that at all. I feel like nobody's expected too much of us right away. And as the year has gone on, we've learned and grown and been able to be more and more independent. And so going into next year, feeling like I have this relationship with my mentor now, with this person who I could reach out to if I have any questions, but that she's taught me so well and answered all my questions so well that I probably won't even need her anymore soon, once I get through the year.
What about you, Luke?
I'm a double down on the mentor program. Having somebody like just that person that you can go to with all your questions, and then the mentor guides that all the mentors put together for us, kind of explaining different aspects of the job and what's going on around that time of year. Being able to be guided through that process, and then on top of having that mentor support, having our own teams within the county. So there's six different color teams based off of where we are in the county, and any one of those people I've reached out to throughout the year, and I've gotten very helpful stuff from them, from the APE teacher that was at my schools last year. More about there's always somebody that is more than willing to help you out and wants to see you grow and improve and do very well at this job, and is making sure that you're not sinking before the year's up.
Go cute.
Dana, what about you?
I think having such a big group of other APE teachers, you have people you can bounce off so many ideas to. If you have a question, you can ask anybody. Like Cody and Luke both said, the mentor program is amazing. You have your team leads, which is great. We have like professional development specific to APE, where we learn a bunch of different things we can add. So just having that nice large group where you can ask anybody anything.
And Hannah, anything else you'd like to add?
I was also going to talk about the mentor program. So I do think it's very telling that like all four of us talked about it. Especially a lot of us like moving to this area. It's just kind of nice to have that immediate support system. And I feel that because we're such a unique niche in the county, it's a very team-oriented job. So like there are a few times like this year I had a personal emergency and I had to pretty much like, go to a different state for a week to take like care of something. And so many people were all hands on board just like to help me out with my paperwork, missed meetings, seeing my kids. And you just feel so loved and supported, knowing that like even in an emergency situation that someone somewhere is going to step up and give you love and give you the support that you need.
Thank you for sharing. That's a nice little plug. I feel like all of those answers were pretty specific to our program in Fairfax. So if any students are on that are looking to apply for first jobs, it sounds like this would be a great place to start your career. There's also going to be a session later with Ashley Rosenfeld and Jeff Yellen, who are going to be talking about the mentoring program, and kind of, I think it'll hit a little bit specific on how we do it in our county, if there's any administrators that are looking to start something like that. And if you are a student that's applying and you're not looking in this area of the country, that's okay too. That would be something that you ask about or inquire about in your interviews. How will you be mentored, or what supports might you have as a first-year teacher? And then this is the last one, and then we'll open it up to participants to ask questions. What is one piece of advice that you would give to those that are going to be starting their first year teaching this fall? So we'll start this one off with Luke.
So my biggest piece of advice would be to appreciate the amount of learning and growing you're going to do within your first year. It's very easy to go into the job and want to be perfect at it immediately. Because at least from coming from JMU, there's like a lot of expectations coming out of a lot of these teacher ed programs. And coming into here, you wanna do good as soon as you start, and then you get throughout the year, and there's so much stuff going on, and maybe there are some things that you aren't doing perfectly, and sometimes you just gotta take a step back and say, you know what, that's okay. I can do this better, and next week I'll do this thing better, and next week I'll do this thing better, and always remembering that there's going to be questions that pop up, but there is a lot of support that is nearby. So whatever questions that are coming up, that would be your mentor, any of your team members, anybody in the program really, um, is always willing to be there and step up and give you any advice that you need going into that, and really support you in the fact that you are doing good at this job and that you want to basically have that support to be able to keep going and celebrate the pieces that you're getting better at throughout the year.
I think that reflection and growth piece kind of shined through in your answer, and that's something that we want to do for our whole careers, not just in that first or second year. Dana, what about you?
I would say don't be afraid to try something. So if you have an idea on a lesson or a unit, just ask and see if you can do it. I know when I went in, I was like, oh, these PE teachers have been here for forever. They're not going to take my advice or want to try anything, but they do, and they think it's cool, and they're willing to try and support you and whatever, even if it fails or if it's really successful, you can always try something, and they're always willing there to be there and help you through all that.
Thank you. And what about you, Hannah?
I think it can be a pretty like scary transition sometimes when you're going out of college and into a career. And I know like my first like month or so, a lot of times you'd be like, oh man, I need to find a teacher and ask them this. And I'm like, I'm the teacher. Oh my God, I'm the expert here. Um, because when you do graduate, you are assumed to be the expert in your field. Um, but I think what's important to remember is that you are an expert. It's just building up that confidence and trusting yourself and trusting the knowledge that you've been given. Um, and kind of going off of what Luke said too, you never want to stop learning and continuing to be involved in not necessarily like the student side, but not getting complacent in what you've done so far, but just wanting to challenge yourself and like continue to want to be better at your job.
Thank you. And then Cody, what about you?
What I have is pretty similar to what Hannah and Dana were just saying, but remembering that even though you're new and you might not have as much experience as other people that you're working with, that your professional opinion still matters, and you can always bring those new ideas and perspectives to the table, which can be hard sometimes for veteran teachers to want to listen to you or to break their routines that they've been doing. But it's always good to try those new strategies, those new ideas, new ways to format lessons.
Thank you all for sharing those responses. We are going to take the time now to open it up. If anybody would like to unmute or put a question in the chat. While we wait for some questions to come through, thinking about those that would be interviewing. I mean, we're doing interviews now for next school year, so they might be interviewing now as well. What's a piece of advice you would give them as they prepare for those interviews? And Dana, we'll go back to you to start for this one.
Yeah, I would say that share your stories and experiences. And since a lot of you might be coming out of school, and even if you haven't had the exact experience or the answer for the question they're asking, share something. Because I think a lot of times you get really nervous and you're like, oh, I don't know this answer. But in reality, you do, and you might share a great answer. But because you started the question off with, I don't know the answer, it might not look as good when like you have the answer, you have the experiences, you have the stories. So just share them.
Hannah, do you have any advice for interviewing?
I completely agree on like sharing stories. I feel like it allows the interviewer to see who you are as a person. And I know like not everyone that might be on this call is like just adapted PE. They could be like general physical education as well. But there are a lot of adapted principles that go on in the general education setting as well. So even if the question might seem to be like special education specific, you've probably dealt with situations that like force you to adapt or modify certain activities. So just kind of being, like Dana said, like being confident in yourself and your abilities and experience and being able to share that, but also share who you are as a person.
Thank you. What about Cody? Do you have anything to add?
I think that was all really well said. Definitely, like when they're asking you a question, giving an exact example of how you did that thing with a specific student. I think sometimes you can even make it up. You can say, if I had a student who did A, B, C, and D, this is what I would do. So it doesn't have to come directly from experience if you just don't have that experience.
That's a great point. Luke, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I would definitely say that interviews are almost more about the mental framing than anything else. It can be scary to see a panel of 6 people that you've never met before interviewing you, but I think the thing to remember is that you've learned a lot during your time in school and from your experiences, and almost framing your mind to go into that saying, this is my opportunity to demonstrate how much I've learned from those experiences during my time at school.
That was all really great feedback and suggestions for those that might be interviewing. It sounds like being confident, speaking on your experiences. And I like how Cody mentioned, like, we might not have experienced everything that they're asking about. So just replying to how you might respond to a question or respond to a certain experience. I think that was a really great suggestion. I haven't seen any questions come through the chat yet. So I'll have another one here. When do you feel the most successful in your teaching? And we can start off with Hannah for this one.
I think I had kind of touched on it earlier, but it's all about like the little victories. So like sometimes just having the student that is really intimidated to try new things or like don't tend to engage with you, even if they just come in, they say hello to you that day, like that is really significant. I definitely do feel a lot of pride when I try something new and it is successful, or just like has a positive response. The kids seem to be enjoying themselves. That's where I feel the most pride. I love to see my kids just having a good time. Um, but just those little victories of engagement, socialization, like general participation for some of my kids, seeing them get more comfortable and knowing it's because of you and the atmosphere you're trying to develop in your class. It's just a very rewarding experience.
Thank you for sharing. Cody, what about you? When do you feel most successful?
I think it's a cool experience to actually have goals for all of your students and know the goals. And so when you're seeing a student getting better or making progress towards their goal or reaching it, when you see people having fun, and like I will tell a story like we were just telling with the interviews, but I was demonstrating jump roping the other day, and I did like 2 jump ropes, and then I got caught in it. And my one kid, who normally is not looking, not paying attention, no, does not want to participate, whatever I did, laughed so hard that I didn't make it over the jump rope and was the first one that wanted to try it that day. So that was like a really cool thing. As much as that wasn't his actual goal, it was funny, it was fun, and he wanted to try the activity.
That's awesome. Sometimes part of it is making ourselves look a little bit silly to get that buy-in, right? So that's great. And beyond our goals, we're teaching them the curriculum. So yeah, we want them to make progress in their goals, but we want them to make progress in the curriculum too. So that's really cool that you had that experience. Luke, what about you? When do you feel most successful?
I would say those moments when I can really connect with my students. It's so part of being like an adapted PE is that we don't get to see our kids as much as their case managers. I mean, we see them for usually about an hour a week at the elementary level. But those moments throughout the year when you're really able to make a step further with a student, and when there's a student that hasn't really said much to you all year and is a little bit more passive, that one day just comes up to you while you're watching everybody do the warm up and reaches their hand out because they want you to hold their hand and walk with them around the gym for warm up. So those opportunities to connect with them more and be able to translate that into the content area and using that relationship to basically further what they're learning in class and be able to allow them to take more from you.
Thank you. And what about you, Dana? When do you feel most successful?
I would say when the kids are so excited for PE that whenever they see you in the hallway, they'll point at the gym. They'll be like, Mrs. DeVore, do we have PE today? And just that love and excitement for movement and physical activity.
It sounds like all of your answers really revolved around students and you all kind of lit up talking about them. So that was pretty cool to see. One more, let's see, I saw a couple things. What are your favorite activities or sports unit you do with your students? Let's see, Dana, since you just finished, why don't you jump in first?
I love teaching the jump rope unit because it's one of those that's really hard for a lot of kids. But once they get it, they love it. And then you see that light bulb moment go off. And then they always just want to continue jumping and to see if they can get higher and more jumps in a row.
Cody, what's your favorite?
I feel like I gotta think about this one. It's been really fun, and we haven't been through the whole year yet and haven't done everything yet. But it's been cool to also see the differences of the kids learning things in your small groups at your different schools and in the general PE at your different schools. And I don't know about everybody else, but all 3 or 4 of my schools are doing different things at different times. So it's kind of nice to also be like, I just did jump roping. Now I'm popping around and I'm doing dancing. Now I'm doing volleyball, and just learning and seeing everybody.
Thank you for sharing. What about you, Luke? Any favorites so far in your first year?
Definitely tumbling. So like the animal walk, so like the bear crawls and army crawls, and them getting to do a bunch of different kinds of rolls. So a pencil roll with their hands up in the air, and then a log roll with their hands tucked beside each other. And I think one of my favorite times is when we got the angled mat and they were practicing their different rolls down the mat, and 3 of them got on the mat at the same time and then just started tumbling down. Um, definitely definitely a lot of my kids that were more reserved in class, a lot of them seem to be really energized about just being able to, in their mind, like learning something, but just getting to roll around on the floor, but in ways that fit the PE curriculum.
Thank you. And Hannah, what about you? Do you have a favorite unit or activity?
Actually, really similar to Luke. I love my gymnastics unit. We do, like you said, rolls, but we do a lot of like balancing, jumping skills. And we have a lot of like differentiation involved in it too. So like with our jumping, they can choose between like a tuck jump or a star jump, or even just like stepping off of like a high mat. we show them like a bunch of different roles, and we can kind of let them pick which one their favorites are. So I think like because they have so much choice and it's such an inherently fun activity, it's I don't know what it is, but like I have never had a participation issue with my gymnastics unit, and just getting to see them so excited to participate, it makes my whole day.
Thank you for sharing. I believe that was the only question I saw pop up in the chat, and we are just at the end of our time. I'm gonna stop sharing.